welcome back to the channel. Today the Dodge, this is the 2016 Dodge Ram 2500, and I've really been trying to do a lot of stuff to this Dodge. Even though it has 200,000 miles on it, I'm looking to actually build a higher horsepower motor, and I've got big plans for it. But one of the first things now we had to put a new turbo in it, so we put the Fleece Cheetah in there. We've done a grid heater delete. We've done a lot of servicing on the truck recently. But one of the steps to getting some higher horsepower and really making it do some improvements, probably my first step is to upgrade the fuel system. So today that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to do a pretty big fuel upgrade to the Dodge, and let me show you what we got. As you can see here, we decided to go with the Fass Titanium Signature Series. This is actually the 165, and you might be thinking, you know, what do you need a 165 for? You could be fine with. They have 100 that's perfectly fine for a stock truck. Well, I'm kind of thinking about the future of this truck. And my idea is to build more fuel and more horsepower with this truck. And I did a lot of research, and if I want to get this truck, so the dream truck is to basically build a 800 to 1,000 horsepower tow vehicle that's reliable. And I kind of needed the 165 gallons per minute pump to be able to feed that CP3. I'm planning on, one of the next things I'm gonna do after this is upgrade my CP3 pump to probably a 12 millimeter CP3. And the idea is to slowly rebuild this motor to something that'll be right around 800 to 1,000 horsepower, but set up as a tow vehicle. And the first step is basically getting some clean fuel. So today we're going to install this Titanium Signature Series 165. Let's see what's in this package. And this is supposed to be the no drop kit, but I don't see anything on here that says no drop on it. It's supposed to have the pump included in this. So let's see. I don't know, maybe they repackaged it. And I did get extra filters for down the road. And one thing I did hear is, as soon as you open this up, go online and register it so that you can, so it can be under warranty. Because if you wait too long on registering it, you only have 30 days to do it. So just get it out of the way, do that right away. Okay, here's some bolts, a little bolt kit. Here's some hose. Now this is the bigger diameter hose for the 165. And the 100 I think has a blue hose. So there's that. Okay, so here's the no drop. Here's our sump. And so this kit is the no drop kit with the sump included. Got a nice little Fass sticker. Electric wire harness. Here's our registration that we need to do right away. And here's our pump. It looks smaller. It looks smaller in person. So look at this outside. This looks a lot different than that original picture. Now this should be the 165, but I don't see anything on here saying it's the 165. Carb EO D713 Signature Series. It's got an interesting motor, a little different than the original pictures. Like if you look at this picture on here, that's kind of what I was expecting that, but looks like it's got a newer style motor, which could be cool. So there's our pump. Sump something in here. I'm not sure what this is. Oh, I went ahead and ordered the hole saw because it's a special size for that drop, and I didn't know if I had that exact size. So here's the two filters. Here's one of the brackets, and then here's the other bracket. It's funny, the videos that I watched of the guys installing these, the brackets looked a lot bigger, but now we need to make sure this is a 165. Oh yeah, it says, right there, it says 7165G. All right, enough blabbering about this Fass fuel system. Let's get to the install. Now, everything in the packaging was really good. I kind of went through all the parts and checked everything, and I basically started out with the electrical. It gives you good instructions. You go online, you scan the QR code, and it'll go step by step, and then you basically start installing it. And what I did was I basically disconnected my batteries, and I started out with the electrical. I ran the electrical from the batteries. I found a little mount for the relay next to the battery that I thought was an okay spot, and then I fed the electric line down through the engine wheel well, or next to some other lines, and kind of tried to make it as clean as possible. Right there, you can see I'm putting the relay right next to the battery right there in kind of an upright position so that waterproof connector kind of protects it. Not that much water gets inside this compartment, but it did come with that. I did all the connections for the fuses and the electrical plugs. I did put the dielectric grease that they provided into the electric connection. And there was enough for it came with enough grease for all of them. Right here I'm hooking up the positive and the negative, and basically it's got a 10 amp fuse and a relay up here, and this runs directly down to your fuel tank. Next up, it was just a matter of zip tying and cleaning everything up. I use a few zip ties, and up under the truck I basically just tried to follow a safe line and zip tie them as, I zip tied them along the brake lines and just trying to keep it up out of the way as clean as possible. And then I start to get the pump ready. Probably one of the hardest electrical connections was the one on top of the fuel tank. I didn't get much good video of that, but it was a tight spot, and it was a little hard to unclip the old one off of the fuel tank. But I eventually got it off, and then it has a bypass. Basically has a plug-in to plug into the top of the tank, and then another plug to plug into the new harness. And that enables it to basically bypass that lift pump that's in the tank, but retain the fuel gauge and stuff that's in that tank. And that worked good, flawlessly. My tank still is retaining the original fuel level switch while bypassing that lift pump inside there. Now my truck's a flatbed, so where they tell you to put it right here would normally be under a fender. So I'm not sure how I'm gonna cover this up in the future, but it's pretty easy to get to right here, because my flatbed basically does not come down. Normally a fender would come down to the bottom of the cab right there and kind of cover a lot of this up. But on a flatbed, you're a little more exposed up under here. So I'm not sure. I might build something to just protect that a little bit. Something that maybe will keep rocks from flying from the tire up and hitting this filter. But for now, it's a good spot, and it's right where they tell you to put it. And I just go about the procedure of getting this thing bolted in here.
Now I slid it kind of as far forward on this bracket as possible towards the cab of the truck, and so it was a little hard to do the bolts because they're behind it. But I just used a couple hand tools. And now the fun part of so the location where you put this sump is right under the existing lift pump. Now I used some 600 grit sandpaper with a little sander, and I sanded the bottom prior to drilling it. I gave it a good sanding all around this thing, and then cleaned it off with some brake cleaner, and then let the gas dry out or drain out, and then drill the hole. And there you can see I was almost dead center of where that was actually. Next up, it was basically pushing that thing up in there and cleaning off getting the burrs cleaned off of this plastic really good, and then kind of line this thing up where I think that the pipes are going to go, and then you torque it down to 12 pounds. And I basically just went exactly to 12 pounds, and that was it. Next up, it was to go up to the CP3 pump. Now this fitting right here on the CP3 pump that I'm taking out, the new fitting, what you need to do is you need to put that fitting, I had to take this back out actually, because see right there, you can get your wrench on it, but then you can't put a wrench on this next fitting. There's no space to put that wrench. So what I did was I took them both out, and then I wrenched them both together, and then I put it back in. So that outer fitting that your tubing goes onto was already tight onto the CP3 fitting. And then I was able to use a kind of an angled wrench to put that on and get it nice and tight. And then it was a matter of, I got some special tube lubricant to basically push onto all these joints. And I tried to kind of keep them all clean. You can see there I'm wiping this stuff onto the nipples. It was kind of a special type of lubricant for installing lines onto there. And then I basically just try to make it as clean as possible and run these gas lines up, and then just basically push them onto these fittings. Once that was done, basically I just double checked all the electrical. I went through and put some more zip ties on, and then it was just a matter of firing up the truck. Full disclosure, I primed the filter. I put 5 gallons of fuel in, and I primed the line going to the CP3 pump prior to actually starting it up. It was pretty easy to prime though. Next up, I decided to 3D print this little hose clamp. Basically, it's a spreader clip that works on with zip ties, which I thought was kind of cool, and I thought, oh, I'll print one of these with my 3D printer and see how it looks. And it actually fit pretty good. I printed one in red because that's what was loaded in the 3D printer at the time. But after putting it together and kind of looking at it, I decided, yeah, that was all right. So I decided, well, I'd need about 3 of these to make this work. So I printed them in some PETG black, and I thought those came out pretty. And here you can see them being printed. To print 4 of these, they took about an hour to print. And here you can see them up on the vehicle. I put that little green hose in there to kind of protect it where it went up against the frame. But I thought those turned out pretty good. And there you can see the whole filter in there.
All right, guys, last on the list is we're going to install this Fass fuel filter delete. Now, basically, down inside where your fuel filter is, that fuel filter housing and everything takes up a lot of space in there. And at this point, we've bypassed it. We've ran a new fuel line all the way from the Fass 165 all the way to the CP3. But you also have a return line, and the return line goes through the old filter. So that's still hooked up and still working. But what we want to do is get rid of that fuel filter altogether it frees up a lot of space on that side of the block down there. That way when you're working on your truck, you're not having to, you get that big chunky filter out of there. And then we're gonna install this Fass delete kit. And it basically comes with your banjo washers, and you also have a plug here. You're able to use your same sensor off the bottom of the filter right into this block, and then you can use the plug provided to plug the other hole. But yeah, we're gonna get that installed right now, and this is basically the final step to this fuel system upgrade. We do need to, once we get this installed, we'll do a few little cleanups. I'll show you some pictures of it. I don't know how easy it's gonna be to film in that tight little spot, but we'll do the best we can. And let's go ahead and get the old filter off, and then we'll install this delete kit.
Okay, first thing I do is drain the fuel out of the filter, get as much out of there as I can, disconnect the 2 electrical lines that are connected at the bottom. It was really impossible to film in there. There's 3 bolts holding the filter on. I get those off, get the fuel lines disconnected from that filter, and then basically pull that thing out of there. And then basically the next step was to get this aluminum bracket that was behind the filter out, and I didn't do any filming during that.
All right, guys, right off the bat, I've got the filter out. So this is the first thing I took out. It had basically 3 bolts on holding the filter, and then you have the plug here, pipe here, and this line right here went to the CP3. This line right here goes down and goes back to the filter behind the tank. And then you had a electric line, spilling fuel all over the place. You got electric line here, and you also have a plug down here. Now the one that's down here, we're going to use again. We're gonna pull this one off, and we're gonna use that on the Fass. And this sensor right here, you want to be kind of careful. Anytime you're messing with sensors, you want to be careful. Now this has an O-ring on it, and I don't believe Fass gave us an O-ring for that, but hopefully this O-ring will still be okay. Looks pretty good. We're going to be screwing this into the bottom of here. Actually, I'm going to put it on this side right here. So this is going to get reused. That way we still have a sensor in there. You don't need to over tighten it. So this one, so that's all we're going to use off of that filter. So that filter, basically, the only thing we're going to take off of there is that sensor. Everything else on this filter will get thrown in the trash. And basically, the next thing we did was this piece right here is the mounting bracket for that filter. And basically, kind of sits like that in there. But up on top, you've got your return line that's coming from your CP3. It's a return fuel line. It's coming up here and it ties into 2 things. And basically this line right here, this banjo bolt is a straight shot through that line, and then the CP3 return clicks right onto here. And it was Thoroughbred Diesel says this is a number 4 removal, but it's a lot harder than you think. I mean, it's hard to get your arm in there. My arm's all scratched up. I suggest you wear long sleeves if you're going to do this job, because you're reaching in places that you just can't see, can't get your head down there. Anyway, this bracket had 3 bolts on it, plus the 2 banjo bolts, and then it comes out of there. You kind of got to remove. There's an electric harness that comes through here, and there's another electric harness that comes up here. You kind of got to move those out of the way, and then you can get this out of there. And then that's out of there. So the next step is basically to go back in there, and we're going to be bolting this Fass block onto the truck in there. And then once we do that, then we'll come back and we'll put our banjo bolts on. So yeah, that's the next step. Let's get back in there and get it done.
This is probably the best picture I have of the Fass underneath there. It was a really hard area to film in.
Okay, we finally got it all done, and I must say it was kind of a challenge to get, to get your hand in there and get the filter out, and then this bracket that's on the back, the bracket that's on the back of this. It was not easy. I spent 2 days between the Fass filter and then also the filter delete, the new filter system. But we're all up and running, no leaks, and I'm looking forward to having some clean fuel. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, like the video, and we will see you next time. Later.
There he goes, it's a working man. He's trying to make a living any way he can. And he'll break his back.